Hi, I am in my Say I'm the Only Bee in Your Bonnet t-shirt, and we are going to talk about repairing clothing. We're going to be repairing a couple sets of jeans and this set of slacks. Now, before my life got taken over making masks and gowns because of COVID-19, I was going to teach basic sewing classes at the Yakima Makerspace, but of course those have been canceled because of social distancing. So I'm going to teach a basic lesson on how to repair pants. In order to repair pants, you have to look at the damage that has been done. This rip here looks like the fabric caught and then tore along the warp and the weft. Warp? I don't know which direction is which at the moment, but it caught and it tore, and that's how this hole happened. This set of jeans looks like it was pre-worn when it was purchased, but maybe some of the pre-wornness got a little bit out of control, or maybe it was a little bit too high and exposing a little bit too much of the leg. So we're going to patch this one, but this patch is going to be different from this one. This one we can make near invisible, not completely invisible. This one you're definitely going to be able to tell that there's a patch there because this has worn through. And so there's going to be some visible patch underneath. So I'm going to want to match it as closely to this color of denim as possible. For this hole, I can go darker. I shouldn't go lighter, or I could go straight to black, and that will mostly be hidden because most of the material is there. Because this one wore through, there's no material to cover up the patch with, so you're going to see that underneath. Now this set of slacks has a perpetual problem. This is somewhere besides the knees. It's right here in between the legs that wears out. Cowboys, I know who they are because this is where their jeans bust out. Farmers is usually the knees. But in slacks as well, because this is taking so much stress every time you bend to sit in a chair, sit in your car, you're scooting around on seats, that's abrading the fabric. So this has worn out, and I'm going to try to patch it as invisibly as possible, but there's a pattern here, and this plaid I cannot recover. I don't have the exact same fabric. So luckily most people aren't this close to your seat. If somebody is that close to your seat, you could be like, hey, I need 6 feet of distance, please back off. So in social distancing, a lot of patches and holes can be fixed, and most people won't even notice them. So we're going to patch this one as well. This style of patch, because we're going along the curve of the inside of the leg, is going to be a little bit more difficult than this one, because this one we can work on pretty flat. So if you're looking through your closet, cleaning things up, organizing and realizing, I love these jeans and I would wear them if only this patch were done, or if only the hem was in the right spot, if only, I'm going to teach you some simple sewing techniques so that you can fix them, starting with patching holes. Let's talk about iron-on patches, because a lot of times people will go with the iron-on option because it's quick and it's easy and it's no-sew. Don't believe it. But you know, it's pretty convenient. There's these patches. They've got one side that's fabricy, one side that's plasticky. That's the glue that gets heated up by your iron. And they come in a variety of sizes. Usually these dinky little tiny patches. I mean, maybe if this was the only hole I had, boom, that little patch would do it. Of course, I'd iron it on the opposite side from inside the jeans. But for a hole like this, these dinky patches aren't going to work. Now I'm going to show you a pair of pants that is dear to my heart. These are my dirty job jeans. You can see deck stain and paint spots and garden stains. Now I busted out the left knee on these. That's how you can tell I always kneel down on my left knee. So the hole that was on this was so big I had to use 2 patches, and actually I technically used 4, because when you go on the inside you'll see I ironed it from one side, and then boom, more iron-on patches on the inside. Now, the reason why I did that is the material had gotten so worn down and so thin, I didn't think that these outer patches were going to quite be enough. Plus, over time, during hot washes, that glue washes away. It heats up and then rubs away, so eventually your iron-on patch is going to pull off. And that's why you can see I did stitching around each patch and then stitching across the hole. If you don't stitch down an iron-on patch, it's going to keep peeling off. You're going to need to do it over and over again. Now, this set of pants might make a return appearance. The return appearance of these pants may be for this hole right here. You can tell that on my right side, this is where I rest my hands and brush myself off, and it's starting to wear through right there. So I'm probably going to come back with one of the bright colors that I don't use in my regular jeans that I wear out, and probably going to use this orange on the back side. I might use this dinky little patch on the front side, and that's how I'm going to fix this pair of pants. But for these two jeans, the abraded hole and the blue stress tear, definitely going to use an iron-on this one, but I can't use it on this one. Well, why not? If I put the glue side inside of these pants, that glue is now going to stick. And even if I'm ironing from the inside, that's going to stick to my ironing board. And then you're going to see that gluey side. So I cannot use the iron-on patch on this one because there's just not enough material there. It'll be great on this set of pants if it's big enough. Ooh, just barely. So it'll cover that corner and that corner there. That's what I'm looking at. Boom. Okay, so I can do this set, and this iron-on patch will go on the inside. I will carefully stitch in matching thread to these jeans around the outer edge. I'll make sure that the bobbin thread has the matching color to the jeans. And then I will also stitch in the sort of SCLJ shape of this hole. Yeah, so I'll stitch in this L and then around this little hole to make sure that that's held nice and steady. And I might even do a satin stitch or a zigzag stitch that's very close together over the top to make sure that on the front side it's held down very well. But on this set of jeans, I need to have a denim patch. And luckily I have this. This is my sacrificial set of jeans. I just bought them at the thrift store. They had pre-holes in them and they weren't my size, but man, they were cheap. I think I got them for like $1. So this is what I take apart for denim patches. You can see I've cut a denim patch out here. So I'm going to cut out a denim patch. It's close enough in a blue that when it's underneath, it should match. In fact, I might use the reverse side because that's an even closer color. So I'll use the reverse side. I'll cut out a patch that's just long enough to do this whole area. I'll apply it to the back, pin it down, stitch it, and then from the front side, I will stitch around the perimeter of this hole to hold that down so that it won't continue to expand out. So that's how we're going to tackle these two jeans. When it comes to the slacks, I can't use a denim iron-on patch on these. That's just not going to work because the material is much softer than the denim patch would allow. Luckily, iron-on patches come in a variety of weights and a variety of colors. So I'll probably use a lighter weight one, hopefully in a closer matching color. Ah, yes, this one I think will do. So there's some navy in here. So I will use this iron-on patch first, and then I'll stitch around it, and I'll try to match the color of these pants as close to the darkest color that I can find in there, which I think is actually a dark gray, not actually a black. So I'll go around the perimeter once I have my iron-on patch in place. So that's how we're going to tackle all these different holes. So here we are in my laundry room with my in-the-wall ironing board. Again, if you don't have an in-the-wall ironing board, you can just do a regular stand one. They have tiny little ones that you can by, or you can just layer several cotton blankets down, maybe a wool blanket with a cotton blanket on top, and that way you can have an ironing board just even on a regular tabletop. So I've got my fusible patch here. I need to match up the grain of the plaid as close as possible. You can see where it started the hole right here, with that getting rather thin. And because this is an interesting curve, I'm just going to iron it partially to this leg, and then I will move to the other leg to iron it on there. So made sure that the plaid is matched up as much as possible. Those are fairly close together. Patch goes from here across. And I just warm it up so that it glues down onto the pants. There we go. Edges are looking good where I ironed it down. Now it's not ironed on here yet, but that's because this is on a funky curve. So I'm gonna get the iron in there a little bit more here at the crotch. Getting that curve in there. Okay, let's pull it off the ironing board. Check it out from the other side. Okay, you can see a little bit of shininess. That's the glue from that iron-on patch. So I'm going to have to go back over the top of this with a pressing cloth to make sure that that glue is fully melted into the fibers of the pants, but doesn't end up transferring out. That's something that will happen sometimes when you use an iron-on patch, is if the fabric just didn't have enough fibers there, that glue will still be present. So I'm going to grab myself an ironing cloth. It could be just a linen or cotton napkin, but I'm going to go over the top because you can see where it hasn't quite glued down all the way yet. So I'm going to get that fixed, and then we'll be ready for stitching it down. Here we are on a set of black jeans. Unlike the plaid pants, I can match the color fairly good with these iron-on patches. This is a slightly more blue-black. This is a slightly more brown-black, but it would look much more seamless with these patches. So what's going to happen with this is, because this has abraded to the point where it's just a thin spot in the fabric, I'm going to put one patch on the outside and then another one on the inside, so they are glue sides together right there in the middle, and that's going to be a good support for this hole. So I'm going to adhere that there. Make sure that it's caught on all the edges. Excellent. Now I go to the inside, and this is what I did on my dirty job jeans, on my garden jeans, to make sure that the hole didn't continue to expand. I just reinforced it on both sides. Now you can't do this all the time, just like I said on that plaid set of pants, because having a big black patch on the outside would be unseemly. We can't do patches on both sides, but on jeans particularly, but on these black pants definitely, I can now stitch around this top one. That will catch the patch that's on the back side, and that will hold that hole shut. Here we are with the dark denim, and where the hole is where the pants start to narrow in. So getting it on here is a bit of a stretch. Ba-dum-bum-cha. Okay, puns aside, if you find that you're trying to do an iron-on patch and what you're working on is too narrow, like a sleeve or something like that, you could just fold it neatly in half and try to iron around it, or you can get one of these awesome things. It's foldable. You can slip a nice sleeve on this. Goes down to a point. These are cool. You don't have to have one, but it is an option for you if you're really getting into this whole tailoring and repair stuff. So, luckily, the end of my ironing board is just narrow enough to allow me to get these pants here. So I'm going to tug the ends of this close together so that the glue on the back side of this patch holds it down. I need to make sure that the top corner and the bottom corner of these holes are both covered by the iron-on patch. So I've got one corner there, one corner there. They're all lined up and good. So here comes the iron. Still able to shift around for a little bit. Nice hot iron. And the patch goes on. Check the edges. Now, if you find that you've done this wrong and you've missed part of the hole, while it's still warm, you can peel it off and reset it and put it back down. But once it's cooled down, that glue sets. And it is the dickens to pull it off because you've got a rip there on the other side. And when you pull it off, you don't want to make it worse. So this is a one-shot go sort of thing. So let's check out the other side. So here we are on the other side, and you can see that this is now glued down fairly well, but we're still going to stitch around this L shape and this little hole right here. Also, I'm going to try to very carefully stitch around the entire patch. So there's going to be a large square, an L, and then I don't like the way that these white fibers look. So I'm going to trim these little whiskers here. Probably going to trim those down. Then, leaving the dark blue, I'm going to zigzag stitch up and down to cover up that white with a matching darker blue thread. This will never be invisible, but I can make it blend a little bit better. This is a different set of pants that I haven't introduced you to before, but they are good cowboy ranch pants. They've been starched up quite a bit. They've been patched multiple times in a multitude of different colors. They've got a couple thin spots, and particularly this spot here that's wearing out. It's wearing out in several places. So I'm actually going to put a patch big enough to cover the whole thing. Once I've ironed this on, then I'm going to, just like they did before, stitch around the edge and then stitch specifically over the top of the hole with as much coordinating of a thread as I can. Even though the patch won't be matching on the inside, on the outside it will blend in because of that zigzag stitching. This one is a sad story because this was already patched once. It must have had a small hole there. I can see the iron-on patch still hanging out on the inside, all folded and crumpled up. What happened was they put in this iron-on patch and then they didn't stitch it down. And so slowly the glue came undone through repeated heat washings and the patch just peeled away and the hole got bigger and bigger. So when you put on an iron-on patch, you need to stitch around the edge. That is a stay stitch. It keeps the hole from expanding. And also I like to zigzag stitch over the top of the hole itself to just keep that from growing. So this is a sad story. This hole could have been avoided with a little bit more time put into this particular patch. But now this is trash, and we've got to put a bigger patch onto this. This didn't need to happen. It could have been a stitch in time saves 9, but now we've got to go back in, put in a whole nother patch just because it didn't get stitched around the edge. Okay, here we go. Forgive the Dutch angle with the camera, but this is how I can get the tripod close to my sewing machine. So I'm going to use slightly more contrasting thread with my Dirty Job jeans than I would do normally. That's because it shows better on the camera. But normally you would go with more of a grayish blue than this bright blue that I'm using in my bobbin. So down in my bobbin, I've got a bright blue, I've got a white thread, up above. And for extra bonus, the iron-on patch that I used in my Dirty Job jeans happens to be orange. Now, I have shortened my stitch length to be somewhere between 1 and 2. I want it to be small because the longer stitches show up more. So we're just going to go around the perimeter of the patch. Needle down and rotate. Foot down and stitch. Needle down, rotate, foot down, stitch. Needle down, rotate, foot down, stitch. Do a little back stitch at the end. There we go. Cut threads. Always try to cut the threads as you're working, otherwise you come to the end of your project and you're constantly finding those little loose hairs like runaway eyebrow threads. Okay, now you can just see that light blue thread around the outside, and if I picked something that was slightly more gray, it would be less visible. Now this whole area was thin, but this part here in particular I need to go over, so I'm going to switch out this bobbin thread. I'm now going to make it the top thread. I was working off of a bobbin on the top already, so I'm going to just pop this down at the end. Now, some people, they would see a bobbin at this level and be like, I'm not going to bother with it because it'll just run out. Well, I've just got a tiny little patch right here, so I'm going to go ahead and use this thread until it is gone. The most tedious part of all sewing videos, watching somebody else threading a needle. There we go. Bobbin threads up. It's back there. Okay, so I still have my length between 1 and 2, but now I'm going to change it to the widest width of zigzag that I can do and switch it over to my zigzag stitch. Now I'm just going to go over the top of that frayed spot. I need to make sure that I've only got one layer of fabric under there. Otherwise, I'm going to have a lot of stitches to take out. Forward, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, and that's probably good. All right, so I've gone over that thin spot, snip my threads on the front, snip my threads on the back, and that patch is done. But I've got one here in the booty that I need to do. So this pair of pants, it's doing a lot of work, and I've got a lot of repairs on it. Now here are the not so joys of working with starched pants. It's kind of like trying to stitch on cardboard and rotating the fabric around so you can get to all the patches is very difficult. Now, why do cowboys and farmers starch their jeans? It's because it makes the dirt just roll off. Dirt gets on the jeans and you just brush it off when you've got hard starched jeans. But man, it makes repairing difficult. Here we are with that larger hole that had some of the fibers missing. And here we are with the patch, and I'm going to use this back side because I think it matches the front side of the other denim best. And I'm going to show you this stuff. This is called Stitch Witchery. Basically, it's hot glue gun glue that has been turned into sort of a cotton candy-like form, and then, you know, pressed flat so that then you can use it to glue other things to other fabric. It's used in appliques and all other sorts of different things like that. We're going to use it for this patch, but I don't want the glue all over because I don't want to accidentally glue to the other side of my jeans. So I'm going to just use a little bit. And I'm actually going to place it right where I want it. Now, I'm not using my nice sewing scissors for cutting this because basically I'm cutting hot glue gun stuff. So instead of dulling up my nice sewing shears, I use crafting scissors for cutting this stuff. You can use your sewing scissors. I'm not telling you that you must use crafting scissors. I just find it saves me a little bit of time getting my very nice sewing shears sharpened up. All right, so there I've got that. Put the light side down. I want to make sure that I don't have any of that Stitch Witchery peeking out from underneath the patch, otherwise it'll glue itself to my hot iron. So, a little bit of readjustment here. Readjust, readjust, readjust. Take two. And here comes the iron. Now, have I ever accidentally touched my hot iron to the glue side of a patch before? Yes. Have I ever accidentally melted some fusible web onto my iron? Yes. But you let it cool. Sometimes I'll even stick my iron into a freezer. After it's cooled down, I'll stick it in the freezer, and then you can just chip off that plastic. It's pretty easy to remove once it's cool. Just don't try to do anything while it's still hot. If you made that mistake and you're in the middle of sewing, just take a break from sewing. You need a break. Okay, now stitch down the patch, zigzag stitch around the perimeter of that hole, and this one will be fixed. Okay, here we are on the front side of these pre-distressed jeans. I've got many funny stories about pre-distressed jeans. One is the daughter really wanted these distressed jeans and the mother wouldn't buy them, so she carefully folded them when it was time to go to the cashier. And so the mother didn't realize that there were purposeful holes in the jeans until they got home. Now, I don't think any kids of mine would try to scoot by with that because they know I would just patch the jeans when I got them home, because I'm not spending $60 on a pair of jeans just to have them fall apart. Now, the really expensive pre-distressed jeans, they'll do this thing where they stay stitch around the edge, and that's what I'm going to show you. So this was a purposeful hole that they wanted to permanently have in without it expanding, and you get it home and you realize, wait a second, this isn't cool because I can see, you know, that this is going to expand. You can stay stitch around. You can also choose a canvas fabric that's near your skin tone. I find that for me, usually brown canvas is a little bit too dark. I have to go with something sort of yellowish, to be honest. But if it's a small hole, it'll still look like my skin tone. If you've got more of a tan skin, there's a lot of canvas colors that will be your skin tone, but they don't really make canvas in pink to sunburn pink to sunburn red. Those are the colors that I am. It's pink, darker pink, sunburn red. So because my colors don't come in canvas, I have to get creative if I want to have that skin look underneath. But usually I just patch it with more denim. All right, here we go. We're just going to go around the edge with a small stitch. Now, if you can deactivate your feeder feet, that could be helpful in a time like this. I don't. I just kind of muscle things around. Right, here's where I hit the reverse button. Muscle it over and reverse. There we go. And now I've gone around the entire edge of this hole, and it's not going to expand anymore. I'm just going to trim up some of these little wispies, but I'm going to leave them because this is a set of pre-distressed jeans, so they may have intended to have that as a look, but now that hole won't continue expanding because I've stitched all the way around the edge of it. Now I'm about to be onto this dark set of jeans, but in order to do them, I'm going to need to wind a bobbin. Now some machines, they let you wind a bobbin. Some machines let you wind a bobbin while you're stitching. This machine doesn't. Once you have the bobbin winder clicked over, it deactivates the drive wheel to the needle, so you can only wind the bobbin. Just press on the presser foot, and it feeds through, hits the bobbin, and fills it up. When it hits this bumper at a certain point, it'll stop moving, and then I know my bobbin's completely full. Okay, that's it. Give it a snip. Now, I'm going to put this bobbin underneath, get to work on these dark jeans. Okay, I've gone around the patch, I've done the zigzag stitching, and for the most part, it has covered up all of the frayed edges there. However, you can still see some of the white thread through, and you're always going to be able to see that. We can never make it look like this tear never happened. But if you want to, and you've got just the right color of blue, or you want to over dye the whole set of jeans, you can get RIT or home tie-dye blue that is in a denim color and just re-dye the whole pants, and that will dye the white thread to be the same-ish color as the blue, but you gotta dye the whole thing. If you try to go in with a pen or something like that, it's just never gonna quite match the blue anyway. So it's either over dye the whole pants or just accept that they're going to have a little mark on them. But you know what? Sometimes people find that fashionable. So here I am, another set of starchy McFly pants. I mean, these guys can basically sit up on their own. So it's getting really difficult for me to turn them inside out in order to get to this iron-on patch. So I'm gonna have to do some very careful laying out. And it's gonna be a wrestling match once I get it to my sewing machine. And that's why whenever I do have super starchy pants, or anytime I have to open up the side seam to get to a knee patch, I actually charge more for those. It's not that the material is any more expensive. It uses the exact same materials. It could be a hole of the exact same size, but I charge a large patch fee for that, which is a few dollars more than a small patch, just because it takes me more time. You have to realize this is time, yes, well spent, but it's still time. So if I'm getting paid by item that I do, and a certain type of hole takes me more time to fix because the jeans are starched or I have to open them up or something like that, I charge just a little bit more for that because it does take me more time, even though the hole might be exactly the same size. Now the process for patching slacks is just the same as patching jeans. You just have to be a little bit finer with it. So on this one I have an iron-on patch on the inside that was larger that I did a single stitch around, and I picked such a close matching color that you really can't see that stitch at all. Then, because the fibers had ripped and worn through, I had an outer iron-on patch and a little bit beyond it. So on this part, I was able to zigzag stitch over the top, and it did kind of detract from the plaid pattern that was in there, but luckily it was still in the same line, so it's not as noticeable. When I got to the part where there was more of the threads that had worn out, I just zigzag stitched with a very short stitch. I think I had it on 1 or maybe 0, close to a button stitch, and then I just zigzagged around the edges there. So that's how I fixed this, and luckily it is in the booty portion, which hopefully nobody will be looking too closely at. If somebody's that close to you, either you're sitting on them on accident, or they need to give you more social distancing space. So that's how you do slacks. It's just the same as jeans. You just choose a very fine stitch and try to match the color as closely as possible so that it blends in. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing how to patch different types of holes in pants, whether they're in the knee, in the booty, on the thigh, purposefully put in by the manufacturer in awkward places. Now you know how to handle those. Sorry I didn't have anything that actually required me to open up the pant leg, but the next time I do have a set of jeans that needs to have that happen, I will definitely take a quick video of it and link it to this video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this has inspired you to dig around in your drawers, find those pants that just need a couple patches, and get it done. Stay crafty.